Hi folks, this lock was in a shop door up until Friday last week, and it was part of a forfeiture again. So at 6 o'clock in the morning I was on my hands and knees in front of this shop door, presented with this Mortice lock to open. It was mounted on the left, as you can see now. So it shouldn't really have presented too much of a challenge. I've set it up like this because what I wanted to show you is with my pick set up vertically and with my normal left hand long opening wire in the lock. If I go to the first lever, if you look at the angle, it's almost a 45 degree, 50 degree angle. We go to the second lever, it's slightly less. Third lever, the same. The fourth lever, if I can get underneath it, the fourth lever is there. So you can see lever 4 and lever 5, there's quite a big difference between those, and that difference is basically the difference between a high lift lever and a low lift lever. So lever 1, 2, 3, the puck virtually stays at the same angle. 4 is like this, 5 is like that. So what this tells you is the lever pack inside this Mortice lock is effectively 4 high lift levers and 1 low lift lever, or at least 4 higher lift levers. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to put the wire into the picking position. There we go. And on the day when I was trying to pick this, every time I tried to get the open on the lock, I would be able to set 4 of the levers, and the 5th lever would cause everything to fall down. And it didn't matter what the binding order, how I changed the binding order or how I picked it, it really made very little difference about whether I got the open or not. I'm just going to set this camera up now so that we can just have a little pick and see what goes on. Just bear with me a second. Right, so I've repositioned the camera and we've got the 8-ball engineering ultra pick in place. I've got the long wire, long mounted on the left wire. So what I'm going to do is I've already felt the lever pack from the other side and decoded it. So I know that lever 5, 3, 2 and 1 all need to be lifted quite high, and lever 4 is going to be lifted much lower based on the angle from the puck. So let's start with lever 5. So I'm just going to lift that up. If it is a high lift lever, it means I'm going to feel it jump into an anti-pick notch, and then I'm going to need to lift it out of the anti-pick notch to get it into its true gate. So if we listen to that, we can hear that lever tapping. Let's avoid lever 4 and go to lever 3. I just need to change my position now. Lever 3. There we go. I don't know if you heard that, but it clicked. So if we look at the angle of this puck, lever 5, lever 3, the angle is the same, and we can hear it clicking in gates. Let's go to lever 2, lever 1. Now lever 2 and 1 are not reliably binding, so what this means is that by picking 5 and 3, for us to move on further in the lock, we are going to have to lift lever number 4, which, as we know, is a low lift. So if you just have a listen, So 5, there's 4. Now I've literally, I don't know if you could see that, I literally breathed on it. The bolt has jumped back. So I've now got tapping on 5, tapping on 4, tapping on 3. So we know that the levers at the back of the lock are set. Now I've got 2 levers left at the front here, and they both need to be lifted quite high. So let's try lever 2, second lever in, and then go to lever 1. Now, that's now going to jump into anti-pick, I would imagine. Well, what do you know? No, it hasn't. I managed to stop it from jumping into anti-pick. What I was going to try and demonstrate here is that if you have no choice other than to set a high lift lever last, then what can happen is when you lift the lever, it'll naturally jump into anti-pick, and then the whole lock will lock up. And so when you're lifting that last lever, that you know is going to be a high lift and it is going to go into anti-pick, then you need to just freeze the turning force that you're applying, the tension that you're applying. You need to lock it off, because the moment that anti-pick notch appears, then you're going to fall into it unless you actually keep your hand very still and don't actually apply any turning force. So shame, it's gone and opened, I can't believe it. But anyway, let me just very quickly see if I can put it back into that position again. So there's 5. And that's 4. Give 3 a little nudge. Sorry, lever 4 little nudge. So I've set 5 and 3. Okay, let's set lever 2. So 5 is tapping, 4 is tapping, 3 needs to be lifted a little bit higher, I think. 5, 4, 3, 2. Now when I lift 1 now, I'm going to put a lot of tension on here, and what you will hear, and it's just happened, the lock has now gone into full-on anti-pick. No tapping on lever 1. 5, 4, 3 are all tapping. 2 is tapping, and 1, which had to be the last lever that I lifted, because I was applying force on this, has now naturally jumped into its anti-pick gate. So this leaves you no choice other than to back the tension off a little bit and see whether you can encourage lever 1 to jump out of its anti-pick notch and into its true gate. Let's see if we can do that. On the morning that I was trying to open this, it just wouldn't play at all. Everything else would drop. But I'm now going to back this off. Ah, there we are. Right, okay. So I've picked it out of anti-pick. But on the morning, on my hands and knees, I couldn't do this at all. This was a tricky lock that I didn't think I was going to get open, and now it's just fallen open twice on the bench. Okay, let's pull the lock open, show you the levers. 1 second. Right, so I've placed the lock down and I have undone these cap screws. Let me just lift that off. And there's been a bit of a lever explosion there. This tool is holding the this latch mechanism in place, stopping that from sending this spring across the room and this spring coming undone, which is really difficult to get back in place. Anyway, we're here to look at the levers. So what have we got? So we've got a number 1 in position 1. So that number 1 is the highest lift lever. Then we've got a 3, a 1, a 3, another 3, a 7, which normally, if this was this is a Strongbolt, but if this was a Fortress, 7 would be the lowest lift lever. But on the Strongbolts and the Yale version of this, the lowest lift lever is actually an 8, because there are 8 heights, 8 differs, and the last lever, of course, in here is going to be a 3. Here we are. So let's just move that to one side. If you look at these in the order that I picked them, you can see, let's zoom in on that one. There we go, let's zoom in a bit more. Okay, so if we look at this, the first lever, which was a 3, you can see that this anti-pick notch is before the true gate. So when you lift that lever, the first thing that's going to happen is it's going to drop into that anti-pick notch, and then when you continue to lift it, it's going to come out and go in the true gate. That's why that's called a high lift lever. You need to lift it higher than the anti-pick notch. And then that second lever that we barely touched, as you can see, is a 7, so it's a really, really low lift on that one. If I was to lift that high, then it would jump straight into the anti-pick notch. You wouldn't be able to get the lock open. There we got another 3, which is a high lift, and another 3, which is a high lift. And then finally, the last lever in this lock was a lever height 1, in position 1. And you can see that is virtually the highest lift lever that you're going to encounter. And yes, again, the anti-pick notch is before the true gate. So when I was picking this out in the field, I knew that this was going to possibly be the lever that needs to be lifted last, because if you position all of these in their true gates first and then only nudge that lever up, then it's going to give you the open. But without that lever set in its true gate, these 2 levers wouldn't bind. So I had to set this one, this one, this one, and then setting these 2, it was almost inevitable, unless you backed your tension off, one of these was going to go into its anti-pick notch. But as I've just demonstrated on the bench, you can pick out of it, or you can feather the tension just before you lift that lever, and lift it beyond, and then put the tension back on so that you can get the open on the lock. All right, okay, another example there. All right, thanks a lot. Bye for now.